Welcome to the Compromise to Alchemize podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Neil Bolton-Donnie. I'm excited as you join me in this journey to listen to my conversations with some of the leading experts in the field of healing from a broad range of disciplines. Greetings and welcome to the Compromise to Alchemize podcast with Dr. Neil Bolton-Donnie. I'm excited today because I get to interview Steve Levine, who is, for anybody that knows either my work because you've come in to see me, or you've been to my trainings, or you've heard me talk about this on different podcasts. I love talking about violet light, and I love talking about all kinds of lasers. And so he is the one who designs and makes and engineers these cold lasers. I'll just preface our conversation by saying he's just a wealth of information. Um, he not only does laser engineering, creates these, but he also has remote healing as one of the things that he does, and he talks about a range of other ways in which he thinks about and conducts a healing modality. So, and he has other things in his store as well, other than the various cold lasers. So he talks about that. We talk about my application of the lasers as well as instances where he's seen dramatic results in healing with people. We just get into it. And for me, this was really fun because we've talked via text, via phone, I think since nearly 5 years ago. But this is the first time we had a face to face. So I actually got to hear more about his story than I'd heard before. But I've just known since I've come across him that he was really caring. And when you want to refer people like I have to his website and to his resources, it's just phenomenal. So I also want to make sure I let people know, yes, I have an affiliate relationship with Steve. So for those who do purchase the laser, you do get a discount, and it's also benefits me. So I want to make sure I tell everybody that up front too. And in the show notes, and you can find ways to get lasers. But like I said, this is more about the story of how Steve got into designing these lasers. And I also love sharing like how I find that violet light's great for nervous systems and airway and feeding cases, and for ab separation, and for primitive reflexes. And there's, and we talk about green laser, and we talk about a lot. So I'm really excited for what you all are going to hear. Please tell us what you think. If you're not following the podcast, please do. Please comment. I haven't even asked anybody to make a comment, but I would love for more eyes to get on what we're talking about, for more people to come across Steve. He's such a tremendous healer. So is everybody else that's been on the podcast. But I guess now is my time to say, just let's give some attention to those who are coming on the podcast, so we can thank them for the healing work that they do. So enjoy this episode, and can't wait to hear what you think. All right, welcome to the Compromise to Alchemize podcast. Everybody listening or tuning in, you'll see Steve Levine with me, who's an amazing, not only cold laser therapy engineer, but healer himself. I can remember connecting with you, Steve, years ago when I was in search of a good laser. And what was cool is that, well, I'll get into more of the story a little bit later,
Mhm.
but it would just resonance right away with not only what your tech was and the lasers that you had, but like your nature. And you just were like quick to say, um, you'd love to help inform me about the laser, how to use it. And you've been that way not only with me, but for all the people, patients, and people like that have I've referred, because I just think what you offer is so great in terms of the tools. But I think it's also the fact that you care and you're really eager to help people. So thanks for coming on to the Compromise to Alchemize podcast, Steve, and it's good to have you here.
Yeah, my pleasure, Dr. Neal, and just sending love and appreciation your way for all that you do. I would say if we had another million guys like you on the planet, we could heal the planet a lot faster. So if you know of any cloning factories, Okay, good.
Not yet, or at least I
Not
don't
yet.
wanna,
Not
right?
yet. Not yet. But,
That's
yeah, I really appreciate all the great things you do for people. I mean, I heard about what you're doing with the babies with tongue tie issues and all kinds of people with neurological disorders and things that nobody else can help, and they come to you and you figure it out, which is so beautiful.
well, I'm a big fan of trusting intuition, and
Yeah.
we share a lot in common. I think
Yes.
we strike that resonance with how we know, like, we can hold space for people, and so
Yes.
I love getting to do that. And I also know when either what my limitations are, or when there's a better, quicker, or
Yes.
just another way to incorporate healing. Or especially, I think we talked about this too. It's like I love people being able to come in, and sure, we might problem solve the most difficult, intricate things, but once we figure out the main things, I'm quick to tell a mom or dad or person, hey, you know what? If you get that laser, it's so economical. You can do this therapy on you, your kids, and use it on all of you, and it's going to be way more economical. So if mainly at this point we're working with that tool,
Mhm.
you could just do that. Come in for the body work, for the manual therapy. But so I just love referring people to your website and to lasers, because I haven't seen anything. I tell people this. I said I've used many lasers that are, you know, tens of thousands of dollars and above. And first of all, that's great for a
Mhm.
practitioner who has incurs that kind of overhead, but that's not feasible for most people.
That's
And I
true.
said,
Yeah.
but the laser I'm talking about is so excellent. It's so comparable to any laser that I have used in terms of cold lasers. So I don't see any reasons why, like you. So I have there's 0% do I ever refrain from referring people to you because of the care you put into it and the pricing you've given too. So anyways, we can get into that too, but I definitely want to talk about your um kind of like what got you into this in the first place, your history with both cold ages and energy healing, and
Yeah.
then of course, like, I'm excited to talk about the ways I've applied the lasers in my practice, and dig into that. So
Sure.
yeah, could you start by telling us like what? Yeah, give us a little bit of your history on like you as laser engineer. Like, how did you get into it?
Yeah, so going back about 20 years ago, uh, my I come from a family of chiropractors, and I almost became a chiropractor, but felt more drawn towards the energy healing, alternative healing type thing, and that's how I got into it. And a lot of it came through my own trials and tribulation. Over 20 years ago, I was working in a ministry in a job, and they just ran out of money. Financial economy situation changed, and all of a sudden, I found myself with no job and started having panic attacks. I didn't even know what they were, but I'm laying on the couch and I'm like this, shaking. I can barely breathe. Chest pain. I go to the hospital. They check me in, did all the EKGs and everything, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with you." And I go home, and that was a hollow victory. So, so I go home, and I'm desperately searching for anything I could find, and I find this emotional freedom technique which people were raving about 20 years ago. I'm sure you're
Mhm.
familiar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I apply it. I did the free download ebook thing, and I do 15 minutes on myself and I am like 85% better in that 15 minutes. I said, that's it. This must be part of my prophetic word coming true that I'm going to have gifts of healing. So if you go back into the 90s, I was in this church and we were doing what they call prophetic presbytery. So these three old guys, they put their hands on you and whatever they got, they give you whatever they feel like the Spirit is, Holy Spirit saying to them. That's what they tell you. So they said, you're going to have gifts of healings in the plural, and we don't even know what that looks like. And how could they? I mean, even if they saw it, they wouldn't know what a cold laser is to begin with. These are really old guys.
Right.
So they just said, "Get ready for it because when it happens, you'll know." And that's how the whole thing started. So now here's my brother, like 10 years later, he gets hold of a $15,000 laser, and me being, an electronics guy, I said, well, you know what? Give me the specs on that. And if my I had this gut feeling that it's the laser itself that's doing most of the work. If I'm right, then there's a massive market out there for people that are searching for affordable alternative healing methods, and this would be one of them. So I get a prototype made up. I send my brother one, and he says, "You know what? It works. I can't believe it." And it was relatively inexpensive compared to $15,000, right? And
Yeah.
then so, and this is the violet laser we discussed earlier, but I'm going like this on my neck, my very first time, and all of a sudden I bend my neck like this just to see because it was really tight. I go like that, and I hear a click, pop, 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 and I thought, "Oh my god, how is that even possible?" I spoke to a quantum physicist because I knew that lasers only penetrate so deep, right? But this is what he told me. He said, "It's more like don't think of it as you're sending energy into something solid." He said, "It's more like throwing water through a chain link fence," right? And I thought, you know what? That kind of makes sense. Because even though we can only measure maybe 1 to 2 inches scientifically, maybe a little more on a deep one of the deeper lasers, but um, the photons, the nature of lasers is that the photons, these little energy particles of light, when they go into the skin, wherever you're aiming it, a lot of those photons make it much deeper than what we can measure scientifically. And so that's the quantum part of it, right? They call it the laser speckling effect, something like that. And all these photons just keep going and going and going. And that doesn't happen with, for instance, red light therapy, which is basically LED lights, which are valuable. They have value. They work. They do a certain amount of good things with like increasing ATP and stuff like that. But and they're very inexpensive, but they don't penetrate like a laser does. That's why I don't sell LEDs. They just, I mean, they have value, but if you want to have the deepest penetration level, the most power, the most therapeutic value going into the tissue, that's where lasers come in. So that's kind of how I got into it. The other part of this, which is really cool, if you want to comment, that's fine.
No, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Keep going.
so my very first try with EFT, I heard that you could do EFT remotely, surrogately, distance for other people. And I contacted the guy that was doing it. He was like the first guy ever that was doing like remote healing in this way. So I found out his technique. I took the laser and I thought, okay, let me see. What can I work on? And it just turns out my wife had tooth pain, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to use the finger point, start with a thumb, and I'm going to think, okay, I'm my wife, Elisa. And even though I have this pain in my tooth, I deeply and completely accept myself, which is the verbology we used back then, but you could
Right.
change out, use anything you want. But just basically focusing on the tooth pain and becoming her. And so I did like 10 minutes. I said when I started, how bad is it, hon? She says about a 7 or 8. So I do like 10 minutes. I go, how is it now? And I'm in my office. She's in the living room. So, not that far, but she goes, it's like a 2.
Huh.
And I thought, oh my God. I feel like Neo in the movie The Matrix.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Now
that.
you are learning, Neo. It's all connected. We are all, the whole earth and everybody on it is somehow connected. And this is like a way to heal people at a distance. I thought, oh, that's it. I'm going as deep and as far as I can go with all this stuff. And so that's how basically I got started
I love that. And that was you said that was about 15 years ago?
20 years ago.
20 years ago. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I have so many. Yeah, you saw me. I was like, "Oh, wait, I wanna say this and I wanna say that," and,
Yeah,
boy, I'll come
okay.
back to that because I wanna dive deeper into a little bit more into your story. So, I mean, yeah, I know a few laser wizards out there, but, we've had a really great working kind of relationship for a few years, and I'm like, "Well, that's been amazing." So, yeah, that reminds me, I've I've sent you those questions. I had, somebody, this amazing guy, he's, Dr. Eric Galindo, amazing pediatrician out of Guadalajara, Mexico.
Wow.
so holistic in his mind. He does tongue tie releases, but he also gets so passionate about light therapy, cold laser. We
Yeah,
collaborate because he really wants people to heal with the least amount of intervention. And
right.
so he asked me, he showed me, he was like, Neil, what about this one or that one? Another laser. Cause he said somebody told him, you need to get this laser. We
Mhm.
looked at it and you're like, Neil, that's LED. And you were very objective about it. You didn't criticize it. I asked you question after question. I'm like, well, tell me, why is it economical? What is, like, give me more on, like, why is the cold laser, I know cold laser is better for a few reasons, but why? You really objectively, in a, I mean, such nice disposition way, told me very brass tacks the efficacy and the potency of cold laser versus LED. And of course, you might pay more for the laser, but you are getting a far more powerful tool. And with your laser, you get so much without having to break the banks.
Right, right.
So I really loved your explanation, and that's what I feel like it's been really amazing to be able to learn a little bit more along the way, because I have a fascination with quantum mechanics, with frequency and bioresonance tech, and just the whole spectrum of that. And like you said, I have this question come up quite often too. Well, the whole range, the gamut of, but Neil, isn't it true that the laser can only go to this depth? Or if you're working on that tissue, what? I mean, I get some amazing practitioners and healers who want to learn, and it's great because they want to know the nitty gritty. And I tell them, while there may be something to be said about the penetration depth of a certain laser, we are atoms vibrating at a frequency. And
Yes.
of course, most people know this by now, but some people don't think about it a few steps further. I mean, like, we are that vibrating milieu of atoms, and therefore we are not solid in the way we might think. And so when we're talking about penetration of tissue, it's not like bone is concrete. It's
No,
not like
not at all.
skin is concrete, or even
Yeah,
this leather, right? Even leather is not leather.
no,
Even leather is permeable and porous. So
that's right.
so I say inevitably we're affecting far more and far deeper than some measured, kind of, and then it makes more sense. Then they're like, oh, that makes so much sense why this works so well. I'm like, yeah, go by how it works and what you feel. And so,
Yes,
so, so I think some people are so quick to say, well, we need to prove everything with hard, fast metrics. And I'm like, yeah, and if it works as well, so you can kinda hold both in tension, right?
absolutely. I mean, personal experience and the experience of your clients, that speaks volumes. So, there's the other thing too is that on the skin, there are light receptors which
Yeah,
carry the light into the body, like just like when you sit out in the sun, even if you can get 10 minutes a day,
yeah,
a freebie tip. We all need vitamin D3. I mean, and that energy from the sun, we can get it from the plants we eat. But if you sit in the sun, it goes into the whole body, the brain activates all kinds of great things, and that form of light therapy is probably one of the most
yeah,
amazing on the planet, right?
right, right, I love it. Well, it's funny, well, not funny, but I always tell people, like, when they see how powerful, like, for instance, the violet laser is, I get so many parents, and, I'm one as well, who, and it's not just for parents, it's for adults who, like, the violet light is so regulating for nervous systems, and it can so, um well, I like to say violet light's like celery, because and celery is like an adaptogen, and one thing those have in common is that they don't do one linear thing. They help bring homeostasis and balance. So celery can take blood pressure that's too low and raise it, or it can take blood pressure that's too high and lower it. And adaptogens like ashwagandha, or like,
Yes.
a range of other ones, they
Mhm.
can take a nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system that's functioning out of whack, and they can increase the sympathetic, or they can decrease the overactive sympathetic and increase an underactive parasympathetic. So they modulate versus,
Yes.
like, do a linear thing. And I'm like, violet light's like that in so many ways. And so I tell people, though, I'm like, first of all, I recommend the laser, but until you get it, go out at sunset. There is a violet in every sunset. So open your
Yes.
mouth when you want light to go
Yeah.
on the maxilla.
Ah,
because that can help with ab separation, diastasis, and
right.
primitive reflexes. I was like, just open your mouth, get sun on the roof of your mouth, and you'll feel it. And they're like, it's so relaxing. I'm like, well, first of all, it's the sunset and it's beautiful, and we're solar powered, right? Just like you said,
100%,
God,
100%.
we
Yeah.
we, we
Electrical, magnetic, biophotonic, bioelectrical, all that. And you know what? It just reminds me one of the keys to healing is getting your electrical energy up in the body. A lot of diseases, they say, this guy Tennant who
yeah,
invented, maybe you know him. Yeah,
yeah.
he invented a thing. Basically, you're adding electrons into the body. When your cellular voltage falls, all of a sudden your chances of diseases increases. So you can get it through, the sun, lasers, magnetics. Even the hands have magnetic energy into them. I found that you can pull energy in because we live literally in a sea of energy. Just that the air itself is just loaded with energy. You can eat on a really crisp, high energy day. If you look really softly into the air, you might be able to see these little squiggles of light. They're like light particles. Maybe I'm the only one that sees it, but some people have told them, they go, you know what? I think I see that. And you should have to look really softly and at the right
Mm.
angle, and you start to see the stuff. And so we live in a sea of energy. So you can pull it in, send it out, do all kinds of cool stuff with it.
Yeah, I'd love to know. Um, and then I want to hop back to this, but
Yeah.
being in this, well, the general broader field of healing, but then if we narrow it to lasers for just a moment,
Yes. Yeah.
um, um, what being a kind of in this field of creating these and then offering them. So over this like 20 years, like what's it been like to be somebody who's harnessed this laser power? Like how have you seen the world change in relationship to even talking about lasers? And I mean, I'm just fascinated by like you taking stock of time in that way, and like how's that been? How have you seen a lot more people like so excited about it? Is it becoming just tell me more about that. That'd be cool to hear.
Well, because of search engine optimization, I'll say in a nice way, the medical stuff gets put first,
Yeah.
obviously, right? So a
Right.
lot of this stuff
Right.
is grassroots. Doctors like yourself find out about it, use it on themselves, recommend it to their patients, and a lot of it for me has been grassroots.
Yeah.
So, and it's been exciting to watch it grow over the years. I mean, a lot of it is become actually more mainstream than it used to be. I mean, we've had actual lasers since the 60s, which used to work on these gigantic plasma bulbs, helium neon bulbs, and they were super expensive back then. Now we've got semiconductors, which everything is like this big. You can make the entire chip like modules like that big, and then the laser itself, like it's very compact and it's become so much more affordable. So that's why we can sell them at a reasonable price. So yeah, it's been a really cool journey and super empowering just to be able to help people like just somebody that's got like PTSD, for instance, and to walk them through the little finger technique that I teach with the lasers, and over the phone within 10 minutes. Like I had a guy that was a vet, right? He a paratrooper, jumping out of planes, seeing his friends blow up in battle, and he bought one of our inexpensive red lasers, and he said, anything I can do to help myself because I'm in just agony with this PTSD. And so I said, yeah, I'll walk you through it. So I just said, what does it represent? You can sum it up in a phrase or one word. And he said, absolute horror. I said, okay. So whatever images come up, just keep repeating this absolute horror. Do a couple of minutes on each finger with a laser. And these are all standard acupuncture points, the Jing wells on the fingers. They all hook up to different emotions, different parts of the brain. And so we're doing this. 10 minutes later, I said, okay, how does it feel now? He goes, can I send you a check? I said, no, no, no. I'm like, thank you for your service. I appreciate it. But you've suffered so much for our country that I'd like to just give something back, because you deserve it. You've been through so much, and so many guys like you. Just let other guys know that this helps you, like that. And he also had ringing in his ears, had tinnitus,
Mm.
and that came down because his cortisol was through the
Mm.
roof. But the
Yeah.
whole thing just calmed down his whole nervous system, and he was like, "Wow," you know. And so I get stories like that, with people
Yeah.
that are just really suffering, and then they're just like, "Oh my god, I feel like going to sleep. I'm so relaxed."
That's
So,
powerful.
so it's
Yeah,
very
that's so powerful.
rewarding and fun. It's like I get to do this. I mean, I'm living out my dream to help people. And when I'm in the middle of it, I feel like probably like you do, like, wow, I
Mm.
get to do this. This
Yeah.
is so cool. So
Well, that's beautiful. Well, yeah, I want to jump right to it because you kind of touched on it. I told you about I really love first of all like the empathy and the care, that you have and like what really motivates you or what, gives you joy is like seeing somebody that impacted and of course just thinking about how, that's like changing lives and really bringing something that is going to change things that day forward, that moving that day forward. So when you said it's like living a dream, I love that. I mean, yeah, I totally resonate with that. So, I mentioned to you, I love asking people. I really want to ask you about your personal legend and the brief, I like to give to any you and those who haven't heard this phrase. It's from The Alchemist, partly what inspired my podcast title. It's when the old king Melchizedek sitting on a bench in this story, and the boy Santiago, he doesn't know who this is, but he just the king tells him the universe conspires in your favor when you pursue your personal legend. Santiago is pursuing this treasure that he saw in a dream. This whole movie or story, it should be a movie, right? Um, Anyways, it's a journey, and the legend pertains to his destiny calling, but I also add, like, the legend on a map that tells
mm,
you, from here to here is 5 miles, let's say, and then there's a
right.
tree symbol here, so you know you're coming to a park or whatever it is. So 1, I would love to know, like, what is your personal legend? 2, like, what gives you that sense of, like, how do you know you're on the right track or like, how do you know you're in pursuit of that? And what are the signs in your life that have told you that? I mean, you've already given us some, but I'd love to just more ask you.
Yeah, whenever I'm doing healing work or talking about lasers or all the other stuff I carry, it's all geared towards healing. And I go back to that, like 30 years ago when I got that prophetic word that you are going to have gifts of healings in the plural. We don't even know what that looks like, but when you come into it, you will know. And that's how I know. And I feel great when I'm doing it. It's like, wow, I get to do this. I get to live my dream and help people all around the world. I mean, I've helped people in Asia, South America, Europe, Canada, all over the place, and either phone or Skype, and I get to talk about lasers, and so that's how I know I'm in the middle of, as you call it, the legend.
Yeah, I
And
love that.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll come back to it, some of the things that you're doing with like your remote work because it's really phenomenal. You can touch people and impact them from all over. And um and yeah, what I heard you say was like I'm repeating it back to is it's like
mhm,
I mean, first of all, you're it's the work you do and it's what you offer and the fact that you're able to like offer something concrete as well as remote work to help people in ways that tech doesn't on its own.
right.
So you have that beautiful harmony. But it was like you that phrase that you said is like when you're in the middle of one of those moments and you feel I get to do that. Like you get to do this. It's like to
You're
me
living the dream.
if I had to pin it down, it's like you got gratitude and joy
That's it.
and it's like it sounds like is there any other but yeah, like in one way that's like you're on this path when you feel that gratitude and joy, of course, for like what you're seeing and what you get to take part in. So that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. I'll tell you a really funny story. And, um, you know, years ago, I got into a little bit with like healing crystals, like this one. Ooh, let me see if I can get it close enough. Is the camera picking it up?
I see the shape. Yeah, for right there it
There
is.
it is. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a Vogel crystal. Marcel
Okay.
Vogel worked for IBM. He was
Really?
he was a engineer that invented the magnetic hard disk. I don't know if you remember those. Maybe when you were little, we used to have those. A little magnetic hard disk that would store all your information. They put into a computer and would like
Yeah.
kind of like the thumb drive,
Totally.
but back then it was a spinning magnetic disk. So guy was an absolute genius. So
Yeah.
he invented this Vogel cut crystal, right?
Huh.
So anyway, I don't know if you ever walked into a store and it felt like crap. Walmart, Trader Joe's,
Yeah.
maybe, right? So I'm walking through and I just started doing energy healing work. And I'm thinking, this place kind of feels really bad. I look around me, everybody's looks sad.
Yeah.
The energy was just horrible, right? So I thought, what if I just sent some energy to the collective consciousness of everyone here? Like anybody who wants it, just that intention. So I start breathing. And I got my shopping cart as I'm walking. I'm just doing that with this little tiny crystal. And all of a sudden, people start laughing. I turn the aisle, and it's like the music got amplified, and the guy that's stocking the shelves is going. He's putting his hands
Nice.
up on the shelf,
Yeah.
and the vibe of the entire place changed within like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I realized that not only can you affect one person, but you can affect tons of people just through your intention and your energy because people can entrain to happy energy, just like
Yeah.
being in the beach and the sunlight. Everybody's happy because it's high energy, high vibes, electrons all over the place, negative ions, and everybody feels good, right? Same kind of thing, but you're just sending the energy through crystal. And so just a fun story just to show people that anybody can do this really. And I love training people how to do energy work. Fact, here's a fun one. You just hold your hands apart like this, right? And let's say you're in a big
Yeah.
group of people and the energy sucks. Everybody's kind of like, or it's a business meeting. And you could even do this holding your hands under the table and just think everybody's in here, like a little 1 inch version of everybody. And then just think the word love and hold that thought. And all of a sudden, you're going to watch people's faces change. They're going to get lit. They're going to get happy. And I've seen it happen so many times. And if people are excited or, anxious or whatever, it's a chill pill for everybody and it's a happy pill. So it's like anybody can do that. Just hold your hands apart, think the word love, intend everybody's in there, and then just focus on the word love. And it's a entrainment process, energy
Yeah.
entrainment process,
Yeah.
basically, that anybody can do. Everybody I've trained how to do this, instant happy meetings, families that have bad vibes, everything just starts to change because the love is universal. You know,
Yeah. I love it. No, that's good. It's
so,
so good.
yeah,
Yeah, and it pulls together so many of the concepts that I love thinking about. Like, I'll incorporate some of this at my training, my floor of the mouth tour trainings, or even back when I was just doing intuitive movement, classes where I was teaching people that, or have people round up, hold hands, feel what's going on in the hands, and then I
yes,
have people just do some simple practices of, envisioning, visualizing, maintaining, holding hands.
beautiful.
Whereas you let go physically and you see what happens, then experiment with, you know, regaining physical hands and then letting go in your visualization. So, I mean, it's just like, yeah, what you're saying, it's like visualization's like built into that. And then, of course, manifestation and these keywords that are really, I think, phenomenal to talk about. Sometimes they get overlooked, or some people feel like we talk about them too much. I don't know. For me, I'm like, how can we not talk about this enough? Because when it's that simple yet that
Yeah,
profound,
exactly.
is so
It's
much to
yeah,
consider.
we literally live in the matrix. It's we get to be part of this divine experiment. Healing experiment, I guess you could call it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's super super exciting.
So, I mean, tell me. Oh, I know what I've every once in a while I go through your site and I'm looking. That's why I got your green laser. Either you told me about it or I asked you, but when I first reached out to you, I was looking for a green laser because I saw one in a vision about how it would help people with tongue tie.
Wow.
And I was holding one of my I think my I was holding my littlest one, now just turned 5,
Wow.
and he was a baby because I was cradling him,
Right.
holding him, just putting intention into him. He was failing to thrive at that moment or barely gaining weight.
Wow.
You worried. And so of course I was like meditating on like his energy and praying for him to be stronger. But I was also thinking about my patients, the infants and kids and adults that I see,
Sure.
and I saw like this, sandy shore, and then I
Yeah.
saw the water come up, and then it was this green color. I looked you that's for whatever reason I found your website in search of that. And then and then I found the violet light. I'm like, that's what I need. But it was years later that I found out from you where you're like, yeah, and I got the green laser. And I'm like, no way, you got one now. And,
Yeah.
because I'm sure you've experimented with when to, produce this and when to produce that laser. You've been, I'm sure, a fan of all wavelengths for a long time.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was like, wow, this is what I saw in my vision of what I knew would help. And I didn't even tell you this actually, but I was working with this person. She drives from San Diego to so it was like a 4-hour drive, and she comes in and she was getting I actually interviewed her on the podcast too, and we were doing preoperative work for her tongue tie to help
Mm.
prepare her for it, and
Right.
then post-operative help to ensure that everything went well. Um, and she had keloid formation on the frenum where the tongue tie release was,
Mm.
and and I said, "Okay, we really need to work on this because even though there's my floor of the mouth protocol is designed to help people with this problem and to do well in pre and post op care for when they get a tongue tie release surgery by a surgeon who's trained in that. Most people who are listening to this is their jam, so they're going to know exactly what I'm saying. But just in case you're
Yes.
tuning in and you don't know, um, a tongue tie surgeon is trained to surgically remove the tissue. In this case, I'm talking about the tongue, but there are 6 other frena, upper cheeks, lower cheeks, upper lip, lower lip. So, and when that's surgically removed, it could be with scissors or laser, certain kinds of lasers, or both. Well, um, yeah, so one, I saw keloid formation, which is an accelerated, exaggerated immune response that leads to the formation not just of scar tissue, but hardened cartilage.
Wow.
It's tough to work with. And
Yeah.
then it's way more common in African Americans and in my line of Indian, so Asian, it's also there. So it's
Mm.
also in our DNA. Um, so but then in addition, on the floor of the mouth, what evolved from the surface was was a more tense um, lining of the vessels. So I'm like, ooh, this is nuance. This is not fascia on its own. So I thought this is the time when violet laser isn't ideal, even though it would be totally fine because I'm preferential to violet light when I'm dealing with airway, feeding, tongue tie. It just for me, I see how much better that works than any other wavelength in the mouth and when somebody has a nervous system that's not regulating.
Sure.
However, in this instance, green light dramatically helped reduce the vascular tension on those vessels on the floor of the mouth, and I felt it work through some of those subtle strands on the keloid that helped. And after that, her tongue moved so well. And that's one of the biggest concerns. Of course, if somebody gets a procedure done, is it going to reattach? Is it
Mhm.
going to heal too fast?
Mm.
Her family line, her tissues heal too fast. So, green light was able to energize, treat the vascular tension. And I've seen it in other ways too, but I got so excited because I'm like, that's amazing. So what have you seen? Yeah, I mean, I don't know where to go from there. Like you have
Well,
countless
you're
stories.
on track for sure because green light has a deeper penetration. It is better for musculoskeletal type of things, keloid scars, things like that. And so here's the green one. Um, and you can see the light like that. And so, yeah, there are other companies which sell these for, upwards of 15, 20,000, whatever it is. Um, but figured it out. It's basically, the green laser 520 nanometer, which does a really good job. And if you use it in conjunction with the violet, they both work synergistically because the violet activates what's called, I think it's called oxygen species one and type one and type two, which are different ways of activating the mitochondria to produce different types of oxygen. That's the best explanation. And then the green light activates complex 3, which is basically a different type of uh, release of oxygen into the cells. So, and because it penetrates deeper, you get more pain relief, you get, better muscular treatment of those types of issues. So, anyway, that's why I started carrying the green. And I have starting to get requests from people that have gone to the seminars and asked, and seen them for sale for such a high price. And I thought, well, I guess it's time. So that's about a year ago, I think I came out with the green
Yeah.
lasers.
Oh, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah,
So, yeah, can you take us through? I know you have like what yeah, what wavelengths do you, or what color lasers do you have? And I think you have a couple other
yes.
products you offer too, just for those listening who want to tune in, and you can tell the pricing or refer people to the website to look at that. But let us know more about that.
Yeah, so they're all basically in the $300 price range. I do have a 660 nanometer, which is my least expensive one, and at 100 milliwatts, it kicks a lot of butt for what it does. Um, and again, that was the first one that was inspired by that company that came out with the 600 range lasers. So great for general pain relief, um, and tons of different uses. Cold laser acupuncture. I've even had people that have used it for facial rejuvenation, hair regrowth, because anything that it hits on a cellular level is going to increase ATP, nitric oxide, uh, cytochrome oxidase, and a few other things I can't remember right now. But it basically activates your mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, to begin kicking out more ATP, and so you get faster healing. And I'm talking about wound healing, diabetic neuropathy, peripheral neuropathy, which I don't know if you found this in your patients, but it seems like a very high percentage of people with peripheral neuropathy having low back issues,
Yeah, definitely.
right? Like 80 plus percent probably.
Hmm.
Um, you're dealing with some sort of nerve compression back there. And a lot of people go about it, well, let's just treat the feet because that's where it is. Well,
Right.
not in every case. It seems like more people, when I ask them before you buy this laser, confirm that are you having low back issues? And they usually say yes. And I said, well, then you need to treat the low back and then
Yeah.
do stretches and things that open the area up, and then all of a sudden it's starting to improving. More blood flow, more nerve flow, and all that good stuff. So anyway, red laser is great for all general purpose, and then for the really deep stuff, the 808 nanometer infrared, things like sciatica, tough to treat, a lot of folks, but you treat across the low back, and then you go down the butt muscles, release all the piriformis and all those muscles in the butt, and all of a sudden it starts feeling a lot better. You know, if you're really locked up, the 808 is my favorite. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah. And then the other thing that I just started carrying because people are asking about it several years ago. People said, "Have you heard this Care terahertz healing wand?" And I said, "No, but let me research." So I start researching, and I run into another healer, and she had breast cancer, and unfortunately, she had a biopsy done. Right after the biopsy, within a month or two, it went to her lungs, and then it went to her liver, and then it went to her kidneys, and then loaded with tumors. She goes back in for a CAT scan. They put the X-ray up. They said, you know what? There's really not much you're just beyond radiation and chemo, which for her was probably a lucky thing. And so she just starts using this wand, and she notices when she breathes in the air from the wand because this is what it looks like, right? And so she turns on the wand and she's breathing the air like this. And she notices after like 10 minutes she can breathe easier. So she thought to herself, you know what? Maybe this will help everything else in my entire torso loaded with tumors. So she did. She's just laying in her bed thinking, maybe I've got weeks to live. And so she just did it every day for a couple hours because it seemed to be helping. She goes back in like a couple, 2, 3 months later, and they didn't even think she'd be around. And they're like, "Wow, you're still here." So she says, "Yeah, can you redo the X-rays again?" So they put up the CAT scan, they do the X-rays, and they're like, "Uh, almost all your tumors are gone."
Wow.
When I heard that, I thought to myself, "Well, okay, I lost my dad to pancreatic cancer in
Mhm.
'07. I wish we had this back then."
Yeah.
And again, it's raising the cellular energy, right? Just like a laser would. It's basically this thing here is a quartz crystal.
Mm.
Inside of this is you can see a little glass thing. It's not glass, it's actually a quartz synthesized glass crystal with rare earth healing minerals in it. And basically amazing for pain relief. And I found out by accident, just because I had another gut feeling, that you could use it for distance healing.
Mm.
How is that possible? Well, what do quartz crystals do? They're used for broadcasting energy. They're in our phones, they're in our computers. They're in, when you turn the dial on a radio, you're tuning into the frequency of what it's receiving. Well, in this case, you're sending the energy, and I just create a little 1 inch image of whatever body part I'm sending to, and usually within like 5 minutes, people are like, "Oh my god, that feels so much better," just like a laser. So
Yeah.
another fun toy.
Oh, I love it. And yeah, I mean, it brings to mind so many things. Like, one of the reasons that I call my podcast "Compromised to Alchemized," other than the part about alchemy, which turning lead into gold.
Yes.
It's an alchemical process. It's not linear. It's very um, magical, in one way,
Yes.
right? And it's like, well, so it's kind of like, how do we go from compromised, which is suffering, struggling, and originally it started out because I said, how can we go from a compromised airway to an alchemized airway? More because of my work.
Yeah.
But then we generalize. My wife's like, why don't you take away the word airway? And I said, oh, right. It is so much more than just an airway. Because what is air for? Anyways, oxygenation, blood flow,
Right.
life,
Yes.
passion.
Yes.
It's like we all want to be well because of all the reasons. Your personal legend is you love helping people. The gratitude and joy you get from seeing people get well and you getting to be a part of it. Well, it's like, you know, for you, I know, like, you are able to do that, and so I think about that, and I think, yeah, we need for that passion, conviction, the personal legend, we need other people, and, in this line, what we're talking about is, even though we're not just talking about lasers, we're not just talking about, you know, crystals, we're talking about energy, we're talking about that intent too, right? But it's like, this is what we need. This is what we need more of. As you mentioned, um, SEO and big ads, they're not promoting this stuff because
No.
of a lot of reasons we know.
Yeah.
Whereas if we get this stuff out there more, which you are, and more of us are, and you're doing such great work with that, it's like, this is how we bring, that compromised to alchemized reality.
Yes.
So I love that you're doing that and like, of course, like you're like seeing something that it's profound happen. You wanted to just get that and start offering it, which makes so much sense. And so if you could like look into the future 5 years, and maybe you already have. Um, if you could see the future and go, and it's like, what might you, Steve, be getting into at that point? Do you have an idea? Do you have any clarity on that?
I don't have perfect clarity, but I do have a feeling that we will. And there are a lot of secret governmental things going on right now that are like buried in the earth somewhere, where they can regrow limbs and tissues and things like that using like plasma technology and quantum physics, quantum healing. And I think that we're going to see things like that come to light. I think there are a lot of people that have, for instance, there was a guy that invented a car that could run on water in the
Right.
Philippines,
Yeah.
introduced it to Imelda Marcos. She said, I would love to do that, but I can't. How come? Well, I signed a contract with the World Economic Forum that we can only run on oil.
Yeah.
Sorry. And there are people that have had healing inventions too that are
Right.
similar. You
Yeah.
know, they filed a patent with a patent thing in the US and it gets buried, you
Yeah.
know. And so I think there are a lot of things like that that use electricity, light, uh, different forms of energy. I mean, like Nikola Tesla had all these amazing things. He was willing to power the entire planet, free electricity for everyone, and it could be broadcast anywhere. You know, stuff like that. And so, so we're just like, we're taking baby steps in that direction. But we're doing amazing things in the meantime, right? We're helping people, not on just a physical level, but also emotional. And I also found in my work that, like 85% of the time, if you've got pain, there's usually an emotion attached to it. So we can clear both of them at the same time. And I just have you go into the feeling, feel the feeling right now. And then we work on clearing it, hold the space for them to heal. And then, oh, I'm bored thinking about it. That's how you know it's pretty much gone. It's not there anymore, right? And we're just holding a space for people to heal, allowing their vibrations to come up higher, and uh, and then experience what it feels like to be normal again. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of my vision of the future is something along those lines where everything gets we go higher, we go to a higher level.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah,
And it's like a aspirational, and it is, and it's like I think, yeah, it's that phrase of there's always going to be heartbreak, like thinking of
it's
royal
a
life,
human experience. There's suffering and it's just can you in your empathy and compassion, can you pull somebody out of that? Pull them out of the mud, so to speak. And we can if you have that gift or that inclination to help people, you can learn how to do it,
Yeah.
and we can heal a lot of people. You know,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm excited about.
I love it. Yeah, I knew early on that I would be involved in healing, and I definitely give props to my dad, who's a cardiologist, who
You
he but he really looked at, like, I could say that there's so many people that said his laughter was one of the biggest experiences for them. They might have had a good prescription, or he might have checked their heart, but they went out laughing with joy, and they felt like that's
and
what.
you don't see that very often at all.
Yeah.
I don't know any cardiologist that can do that or do that at all because it's the biblical saying says laughter is a good medicine.
Yeah,
Really is.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Good
And
things.
laughter is Reader's Digest has, laughter is the best medicine part, where little extra little jokes. I used to read that growing up, fittingly in my dad's office, um, and, I also want to give respect to my mom, who, her nurture, and she was very prophetic, and she, often would see things even though they weren't visible, and tell the future. And, I learned a lot from both of them.
Mm,
Um, the clinical experience of my dad, and then intuition has been one of the best teachers that I've ever had. And I knew I would use technology in healing, and so I'm just thrilled that I felt like collaborating with you on talking about lasers, and sharing it with my patients has been like such a joy, because I really care about, like, interpersonal relationships. And so, you're very approachable, and, like, yeah, when it comes down to it, like, that you care, and that you care so much, is, draws me to even more want to, like, refer people to your tech. And I know they're getting somebody who cares, just like somebody recently who said she just loved it when she bought the laser and she talked to you, you were like, offered to teach her how to use that laser and more. And so I just think that there's, I was in where I've talked about it, there's many more places that others have also shared your lasers, and you have been doing this for a while. So I just almost like, I love when I get to help people, and I love when I get to direct them to amazing people like you, because it's like such a wealth. So I talked about it in, Reading when I was living there, and then I did trainings in Denver, Phoenix, Boise. Then next week I go to Chicago
That's
to
exciting.
teach more people my floor of the mouth work, and I'll be talking with
Oh,
them.
incredible. So
It's gonna be
exciting.
amazing. Yeah, one of the leading
Yeah.
tongue tie surgeons, pediatric dentists,
Wow.
functional therapists, and then
You're
lactation
rubbing
consultants.
elbows with the big boys.
Yeah, and yeah, it's really fun because we're all gathered around one shared goal at the conference, which is airway and feeding, but others are attending because they wanna learn how to help people heal generally, and then we're all part of a bigger collective, which is, healing, because we wanna all live at our full potential, and,
Right.
we're all connected. We're all one.
That's right.
So, yeah, there's too much to say about that, but, yeah, so, well, I wanna make sure that I leave you a couple things, a couple questions, or a couple of, thoughts here as we kind of wrap up. I wanna make sure people know, one, how they can find you.
Mhm.
We'll also have that in the show notes and in
Sure.
the posts that'll go out on social media. So just tell us, where can people find you, um, and do you have anything you want to leave people with before we finish up?
Yeah, just that, when you're given a diagnosis, it doesn't mean that it's the end. And usually when you're given a diagnosis, it's at best, it's a guess. And it doesn't mean that that it's hopeless. I just wanna, people for the people that at their wits' end that feel like just giving up, I just wanna tell you that there's hope,
Mm,
you know? For folks like Dr. Neil, you can go to Dr. Neil, and he can pull you out of the miry clay, the mud, and get you back on your feet. And I say, don't give up until you know it's really the end. I used to have a friend that was an emergency room nurse, and she'd say, "Don't go to the emergency room unless you're sure that you're dying." And I'd often quote her on that. But anyway, I just want to say that there's hope. Don't give up if you're struggling. And there's lots of different ways that you can approach healing, from an alternative, holistic perspective. And so, don't give up. There's hope. That's what I want to tell you.
yeah, thank you. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very,
Because I
that's
see
good.
so many people that are just so hopeless all the time, and I try to share with them. And you're only going to reach a certain amount of people in your life, but I see it as sort of a divine appointment. A lot of people that come to me say, "I don't know how I found you, but somehow I was looking for this, laser type thing or other device, and I feel like I just stumbled upon your website." And I say, "You know what? I I personally pray for every single person that I'm supposed to meet. So even though I never met you, I prayed for you personally that you would find me. And that's how I know that, every day is sort of divinely set up, orchestrated for us.
Love
So
that. I love that, Steve. Thanks for the message of hope, and
yes,
also destiny and the divine. And it's really
yes,
refreshing. And yeah, I love hearing, and I mean, man, I just love getting to know you. And this has been really good. I've enjoyed our conversations,
yeah, I
but
enjoyed it too.
officially now having this
Yeah,
time to talk. So yeah, well, thank you, for sharing your heart, and for sharing your gifts with the world, and for sharing these resources. We'll have, like I said, the way that people can find you, Energy Healer Steve, and the lasers and all your tech, and then of course, um, I know they can look in your website and they can reach out. You have that on there, so that's
So, yep,
exciting.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then, yeah, so just reach out to Steve with any questions you have on the lasers. You can see that there's some amazing resources, but more than that, we have a person, Steve, who cares a lot. So it's more than just a laser company. It's the intent behind that, and that's why I'm excited to share you with more people. And yeah, well, I look forward to seeing how people respond to this, and I think they're going to feel like, if you haven't already wanted to dabble in this, this is why I love sharing with people. I'm like, you can all do this. Don't be afraid. These lasers are safe. They're easy to use, and with a little help and guidance, you
that's it.
can do dramatic things to help you and your loved ones. So,
That's it. That's the goal.
yeah. Well,
Spread healing, empower. My main thing is I want to empower people to help themselves
mhm,
and help their families.
yeah,
And if we can do that, then we are doing God's work on this earth. That's what it, for me. That's it in a
yeah,
nutshell. I
yeah.
love it when people say, you know what, I it helped me, but it also helped my cousin and my friend and my brother and my mother and my dad, and he's got arthritis, and this one's got this other itis, whatever.
I love it. Well, thanks, Steve. I look forward to our next time. Maybe we'll have to do another conversation
Yeah,
after some time, but you
sure.
are amazing. I thank you so much.
You too,
And
Doctor. Appreciate you.
man, I look forward to the many more people that we'll see come into greater healing and awareness because of what you do. So thanks.
Amen. Thanks so much. Take care, Doctor.
In these conversations, we do deep dives, and resources are aplenty. So please tune in and enjoy. And I'm so excited to have you along for the journey.